He's a mentor. He's a coach. Works with me on several of our programs, and he and I also work a program on Sunday night. So, Charlie, how are you?
Doing great, Steve, and you?
I'm doing good. You know, it's been a little hectic 72 hours. I had some things I had to take care of, but, you know, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do, you know? And that's what I did.
Yes, you
And,
do.
and, of course, I got back from being off for a bit. I was filled with phone calls, to say the least. And that's why I got on this call a little late, because I was getting calls back and people needed to speak to me. So I lost 10 minutes of your time, everybody. I apologize. But that can always happen. But I'm so glad to be with all of you now and be on tonight's call. Now, let's make some quick notes, everybody. Next Thursday, what is it? It's Turkey Day, Thanksgiving. There is no call next Thursday. Please make a note of that and listen very clearly, because there's no call. We take off one Thursday a year, and it's Thanksgiving. And this is a day you're with your family and your friends and loved ones and maybe Neil thinkers. And spend time, have dinner, celebrate, and have celebration time. So next Thursday, no call. Please make a note of it, because I'm not going to be here. Maybe Charlie, you might be, but I don't think so.
No, I'm not going to be here either.
Okay, so it's going to be for all of you to remember, okay, because what's going to happen, you'll get on the phone and you're thinking there's a meeting, and you'll blame me. So I don't want to do that. So don't get on the call. Right? One break. It's 1 week. That's all. We'll be back in 2 weeks. So please make a note of that. Number two, I want to give you the recording for this call. I'm going to do it twice. Members seems to either be losing the phone numbers or writing them down wrong, because I've been getting these phone calls from people saying, I can't get into the playback. You're on the call. I went over it. So let me try it again. There is a recording for this call, and it will be available when I hang up the call. But it's not going to be till I'm finished with the program, tonight's program. So write this down as the phone number for your meeting, for the playback. And the number is, you're going to recognize it, but there is a change in 421. I will tell you where it is in the book, but I want you to listen and think with me. You don't need to be reading this book now. And what will happen is, and let me say a note, I will have a Q&A after this call. You can hang on and wait till I come back. I take about 3 minutes to get a little break, and then I come back on the call, and we open the lines for Q&A. And then you'll learn how to star 6 and all. Now, if you're not interested, you don't want to go, you just read and come to the meetings and you socialize, that's fine. That's your choice. So it's, nobody's pushing anybody to do anything, but if you really want to get to know this material, you do need to go to classes. I can tell you that from a first-hand experience. And you do need to be using it and helping others as you're getting helped by them. So please make a note of that and be ready to really blast off to the neo-think mentality. That's a term we haven't used in a while, but I like it. Neo-think mentality. Let's blast off. So, my bad imaginations are flowing. They're probably flourishing. I could be blasting off too. It is a very important factor in your life, everybody, that with free choice comes a responsibility. Responsibility to take full control of your mental, physical, and emotional well-being, who you are. You don't come to school, if you're in the school area, mostly if you are finished, but you don't come to school to be harassed, to be bullied, to be beat up by good friends, and feeling miserable. That's not how you're supposed to live. So, this particular book is about a family separating, and there's a son, a mother, and a father. And it talks about how they really can't get it together. They can't make it work. And Mark talks about several things they talk about. Exerted effort. That's the cue. That's really exerted effort. Simple as that. You must be able to put exerted effort into all of the dishes you wash, the floors you clean, the rugs you clean. Doesn't matter. Give it your best. And I'll tell you, the younger ones especially are very happy that you've come on board and helping us decide on how we handle the decorations. So we're going to get your hands dirty. Please take a pen and paper, and we're going to tell you how to write the world. Not the way you learned in kindergarten or first grade or third grade, but how do you go forward? And obviously, we have to look at the concept of how do we break walls. Yes, break walls. You got to understand, we are living in the anti-civilization. We must know what tools, what thought process, what belief in ourselves we have to break free of the anti-civilization negative world. Which, if you're involved in it, which many people are, and even though you may not be with your spouse, who's going to be your partner in the world you're going to be creating together, you will at least know that you have parishioners who believe in it and are living it. So if you haven't made it, you don't have to beat yourself up. We've got people who have already made it. They went to this program. They took 3 classes. They had a chance to meet the ministers and priests. And so they had a comfort zone. And for each one of you, we will have a gift for you. And it will be for next week. We'd like you to read it and then give us a quick excerpt of what that you've learned. Okay? So please make a note of it. And we'll get started in just a few minutes. All right, good. We're going to get started in a very short time. We're getting ready. But I want you to please understand, as we grow and develop and build, we must be in that exerted effort to make things happen. Mark tells us if we're going to be able to get to the key choice, we have to know that exerted effort is a major, major piece of our lives. It is a major factor. We cannot default to laziness. What have we learned in the anti-civilization? Anti-civilization creatures are lazy. They're mean. They're value destroyers. Right? In the civilization of the universe, we will be value creators. Love, honesty. And we will be creating all these programs in the world. We will be creating the future. So, in order to be effectively doing this, it is very important that you step out of your comfort zone. And everybody's listening to me. I really mean this. You cannot stay in your comfort zone. You must be able to get into a position where you're uncomfortable, but yet you want to make it work. So, whether it could be drawers, it could be household goods, it could be art in the house, business function. All of these factors are called exerting effort. Now, let me make a note to all of you. Okay, I just gave you a note a few minutes ago. Now I'm giving you another one. Because I believe these pieces of information are important to give out. If you're going to really get this, you must make a dedicated effort to make it work. Now, why is this so important? And this is going to do everything else in your life. If you're wanting to hit a projection of either grade or some kind of recognition or understanding of what your objective is, you've got to be up in front and center. Really. Parents are great. We love them. But they're not really in the mindset for special, say, apartments, programs for parking lots, etc. But it's right there on the teacher's her desk. And she wants to meet us. Now, up until then, I wasn't really nervous about meeting the teacher. I could have done it without it. You see, it's very, very important that we have other outlets, everybody. And that means you have to get out and be a soldier ninja. Yeah, soldier ninja. And you will feel and start to see the Sergeant Grimmer that will start showing you the way you should be living your life. But you can't have success stories like that unless you're putting the exerted effort, time, energy to make it happen. And you need to look at that very seriously, everyone. You've got to make sure you are, every aspect of your life, in a way, is organized. And that goes for me. And I live over the store. And I have freedom. So what do I do? Do I think I should just jump out the window? No, my bags to toy like that. Well, I think it's the best thing in the world for him. If I had the money stone and flip okay, so I want you to think about that and realize that in the civilization of the universe, you've got to have specific verbiage, adjectives, and you've got to know how to use them. Now, I'm giving you some basics tonight for a reason, because I'm going to take you to a higher level of the actual scale tonight. And in that up a level, you're going to take a higher level of neo-think thinking. So we've talked about exerted effort. We've brought in the concept of laziness, AC world. We've talked about the concept of value creation, value destroying. I want to make sure that you get those. Value creation is building, growing, developing by giving of your time and effort, and in many cases you also get paid, to able to give your Friday night essence to the students in your school. And it is known in the class, you can hear it, you can see the teachers coming in, so I'm very well aware, especially with new students or students that are not really staying long, that I know what the situation is. So why do I want you to have all that information? I want you to have it because I want you to understand the school factor is your friend. The school factor will work with you. The school factor will support you and your child. Our student's going to come back in, and we'll have him in here in the next, probably shortly. Let me leave it at that right now because I don't want to promise. And that, once he's in as a gentleman, once he's able to get, work on, his feet in the sense of walking and not tripping, etc., he will have a major start for his life. Now, why is this important? Why do we care? We care because we're in a world, we're in a world that is self-destructing. It is a world that we have AC mentalities, and they're blowing it. I'm very serious about this, everybody, because the AC world is really is a bit of a primal mind, which means it's not a woodsy type of place where I love to be, as they say. So you get in the car, you go up to the mountains, you start going one place or another, you get coffee in your hand, and voila, you're ready to rock, and you're able to build a community, right? So all I can say is your future is not in here. Your future is out there, in that hall, in those schools and classrooms. So, with that in mind, I want you to now take the key choice to the next step. And by the way, I am doing pauses tonight. I tell that to people when they hear it. Don't think I'm not off track. I want you to get what I say. I want you to listen to it. You got to understand something, everybody. You've got to be teachable. You've got to want to learn this material. You don't want to act like a know-it-all. You know it all, so you don't need anything. Well, guess what? You do. And you do need this material. So let's take the notes. Let's plan on really getting more into them as we move forward. But in the meantime, let's learn them. How's that? Let's start learning them. So what do we do to be able to overcome this? It's basically, what do we do to look at where we're from? Yes, we had mothers and fathers and we're born to them, etc., but let's go deeper than that. Let's talk about exerted effort, exerted integrated effort. Let's talk about defaulting to a kind of a non-existence of a laziness, and then act in one way or the other. You're going to live a life of exerted integrated effort. You're going to make a decision to live a life as a lazy, follow the leader type person, and then your paths are going to start to come together, and you'll probably stay with it. And that's upsetting because I know all of you out there have great values, but you can become overwhelmed, and you are not really sure how you want to go about getting this material to the world. Obviously, it's a program you have to create. It's not going to be just easy for me to give you this 8 cards. These are his children, and he has a right to be in suit. So when you're moving up the ladder, you must identify good and bad. That's a key factor. You got to know both. And what you do is you either choose to have exerted effort, or you default to Dr. Wallace keeps calling this camouflaged laziness. And the way you live your life will be the decision and determine your character, your competence, and the future of being an effective human being or not. So you've got to understand you're part of a world, you and I both are, which is very bicameral. We may not want to admit it, but we're still in that bicameral mentality ourselves. And anybody who was on, because for anybody who is not in an office, you know who you are. You know that you got invited, you got the opportunity to spend the weekend, probably in a nice hotel, and you've had a chance to move around and see many things. And that's wonderful. That is so wonderful. But you got to pay for it, right? You got to build it. You got to create it. So it takes more than just building it. It takes really a craftsman with very good credentials. If you're going to move forward to higher levels of understanding, knowledge, expertise, you've got to become a very well-read teacher, if you want to be honest. And what happens is when you're in that honesty stage, others will see how happy you are. So you will be glad to leave us. And who knows? We could be crying. Because who you've just met was Raymond and, I don't know the woman's name. Do you know who's Raymond Savior? Okay. Well, I'd like to bring up the gentleman who is working with Dr. Wallace and here in the Neotech Society. And let's see if he feels that his energy is going to be gone. Because he's passing out so many things to other members that he's not giving himself any time. We have to, and that's what I say,
Steve, are you there?
Yes, I am. I'm listening here because I wanted to hear some noise that was coming out here. I apologize. I just was getting back to you. All right. Now, did everybody write down what I just gave you? I'm doing this very, very carefully tonight, and I know there's going to be pauses, so just bear with me. I want you to get it. There are specific choices that you must determine. Number one, you've got to go back to an infant's lifestyle, an infant. You've got to go back to the concept of a baby's life beginning at the first moment of consciousness. You've got to go back to that child of the past, the Zon. Go back to the world that says, I am powerful. I am a leader. Now, I talked to you just a few minutes ago saying to you that you have to be able to recognize who you are. We talked about exerted effort. We talked about laziness. We talked about moving things forward, right? Well, you have to determine where you are and what path you're going to take. And once you make your determination, you then start the hard work. You start the hard work of consciousness and understanding how you got here and how you start to be in tune with who you are. So, we're going to start with baby Zon. You're Zon. You were born a Zon. You were and are a Zon. However, you don't know you are. So this is very important, everybody, and I know this could freak some of you out. A Zon is obviously that higher level superior being, but it's a mystic-free, 100% mystic-free human being. That's what it is. So, you know and I know that, in a way, right now, we're not in that Zon power. So listen very carefully to me. You are the Zon, but you just don't know you are. And you're still not able to register on the meter scale that you have the power of a Zon to really move mountains. But you see why? You have never developed it. You've never developed your Zon power. Because you didn't know you were a Zon. So what would you develop if you didn't know it? And everyone's walking around in this earth, Zons. They don't know it. And they're not putting in the exerted effort. This is very important tonight. And I want you to think. I want you to take a moment of pause like I'm pausing tonight. Because when I was preparing tonight's class, I was thinking, I said, Fagan, how do I get it out to everybody? And I decided, and you're right, I didn't warn you, I'm going to pause. And I want you to think. Because it's very interesting. I'm going to say something. When you're learning, and you have did you notice there was a little bit long pause there? Yeah, I wanted to get back on. Charlie let me know, it's on. And I knew that was going to happen, because that's what Charlie does, we help each other. But I purposely wanted that to happen. Because I wanted to see, did you take the time to rethink what I was giving you? Many times you'll hear people say on these calls, he went too fast. He's running too fast. Well, tonight I'm not running fast. I'm going to take one paragraph or one section, and we're going to dig into it. But we're going to think about it. We're going to take a moment and pause about it. And maybe a minute. Because I want you to get it. And if you don't think this is important, you're in the wrong place. Because it is important. Everything we're talking about with key choice is a crucial piece of the puzzle. And it's a piece that we must get. It's crucial we get that. So, with that in mind, you got your Zon. You got your baby Zon. You got your child of the past. We've talked about this continually, and we'll continue right into next year and beyond. Well, let's look at the next level. Development of a child who really, how do they develop to become the kind of person they should be? Interesting thing is this. When a child is learning, if you notice the type of home they live in, the mentality of the home, the support of the home, you'll get an idea of how the child will become as an adult. It's an interesting thing. For whatever reason when I was 7 and 8 years old or 9 years old, I think it was that 3-year gap time of my life, I was very interested in looking at other families. I don't know if any of you ever did it, but I did. I know, I'll have Charlie see if he did it. And because I was with neighborhood, the kids, you were with the neighborhood kids and everything else, did any of you really look at the parents? Did you ever go to have dinner at their house? Did you ever really understand how they were brought up, these friends of yours? How different was it than your parents? How many of you always remember, those people should be my parents. They'd be better than my own parents. Remember those things? Believe me, I know many of us said it. But what I wanted you to look at is the philosophy. And Dr. Wallace says that the philosophy part is an important factor of this development. And it comes really from the parents. It comes from the family. It comes from their religious and political views, etc. And I want you to see if you can understand philosophy of family. We never talked about this before. Not like this. Remember when you were a child, and did any of you do what I did? Take the time to look at other families. How did they live? Did you ever look at their furniture? Did you ever there and see the kind of meals they eat? Think of that. It's fascinating. And I don't know, I was this 8-year-old kid. And I was so fascinated by other families to see how they lived. How would they interacted? Some of the families in those days, the girls were girls. They were, they would just stay home, and they were being taught to stay home and have babies. And they were like 6 or 7 years old. So they were not given the pressure the boys were getting in regard to education and grades, etc. So the philosophy of the woman's on was really short-changed. The woman didn't get that. Didn't get that support. Man did. The guys, we got it. You got to get to the best school. You got to get into the right college. You got to get the right job. You got to get the right pension program. And it's like your whole life is planned out. Culture is crucial. So make that in your notes tonight. Culture. Understanding culture. And think about that. And I'd like to take a moment. Here we go. I'll be right back with you. Have you done that? When you were younger, did you ever go to friends' homes and just look at the way they lived? I want you to go back and think about that. Okay. I'm not going to make the pauses long. The key, though, is, did you remember? Did you get it? Did you understand what I'm trying to say is, what is the philosophy of your philosophy versus my philosophy? It's a different behavior structure because I had different behavior patterns and family than you had. So my structure was hollowed in what my parents' life was like, and yours were your parents. And this is very important because I'm not talking sociology right now. I'm not trying to tell you we're doing a class on it, but I am telling you you've got to understand the way this world is made up and how people live. So because Dr. Wallace says in The Key Choice, development of a child's implicit, philosophy of living determines the child's development of psychology. And again, development of psychology, learning. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask Charlie to come up. Charlie, I need to have you just pause a little bit when you talk. Tonight we're doing it a little bit different. I think I scared you for a minute. But I did. I know you did. But it was important. You know something? That was a great pause. Because I want to have thinkers on the calls. Okay? I want us to be thinking and really absorbing this material. And that's what we got to do. And you got to pause sometimes. Again, this is something I'm not going to do all the time, but I want to do this a little bit tonight. And I wasn't warning people about this because I knew you'd be afraid. Isn't this interesting? You probably thought I may have passed out. You never know. And I was counting how long it was going to take. And I knew Charlie would be jumping in on it. That's what we do as a team. We help each other. But this is important to know that pausing and thinking are crucial parts of our development. And we got to include them in our development. And pauses, people feel uncomfortable with pauses. Know that? Don't be uncomfortable. Embrace it. Use it. Grow with it. You'll get out on the other side, which is going to be the sea of you. Okay, so Charlie, what I want to do is I've only worked with 4 paragraphs. I talked about the key choice, and I'm putting it up there because last week we actually did consciousness and free choice. Now, tonight we're doing the key choices. These are specific choices. We've talked about 2 of them, and I also gave you a foundation of what kind of characters are people's characters. Can you elaborate on that and just talk about those areas and anything that I may have missed that our members need to get? And we'll go into that. I may have a discussion with you when you get that done. So if you could just
Sure.
add some more to it, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I think the key choice is very, very important to us. This is where you start to get integrated, and this is where you start to get away from the laziness, and you really put effort into your thinking, into that integrated thinking. And silence is important too. When you ask questions or when you talk to somebody, I was in sales for 30 years. And I was taught from the very beginning on a negative sale, which basically meant you don't sell the product, you sell yourself. And if they buy you, they'll buy the product or the service that you were selling. And I remember one time I was sitting in someone's house, and it was just me and this single guy. And we're sitting at his kitchen table. And I said, and it got to the end, and I said, how do you want to handle the payment, cash or credit or whatever? And he didn't say anything. So I just sat there. And I was coming from strength. You have to understand, even though I wasn't Neothink then, I was Neothink at a point. And we just sat there. And we just sat there. And we just sat there. 22 minutes I timed this guy. And you know how long 22 minutes is when you don't talk? I mean, it feels like, basically it felt like 22 hours. And then the man finally got up after 22 minutes and went to, and he left the room. He came back with his checkbook, read out the check, and gave it to me without a word being spoken. I was coming from strength. I was coming from integration. I didn't know at the time that's where I was coming from, but that's where I was coming from. And he had no way out, and he knew it, but he didn't want to say it. That's the choices we have to have the confidence in ourselves to make our choices like that. To come and say, I really feel comfortable with my decision to do this or do that, and stick with it, no matter what people say. No matter what they do, you know that you're following who you are. It's I had that in sales here and there, and I didn't realize that what I was learning in sales was very close sometimes to what was in these pages that we're reading now. And that experience of coming from strength. When I had good, I was in sales for over 30 years. There was great years, there was bad years. Some years you just, for whatever reason, you just didn't have it, and it was all your fault, although you didn't want to blame yourself at the time. But when I had those great years, I was always coming from strength. I was always coming from within. I was always feeling good about myself at that time, and my ego was great, and I knew that they couldn't overcome me. And that's what basically they're saying here. This is what you have to give that integrated effort, and you have to camouflage that laziness that we all have. So when you're facing a day, and a lot of days like this is what I do is the same thing when I was on the road. I wasn't on the road all the time for sales, but a lot of those early years I was on the road. I was going to people's houses. There was an appointment made, and I was going there. And before I went into that home, I said to myself, it's showtime. And as soon as I said that, after I did that for a while, that meant I had no personal life. I had no problems. I was going in this house, and the only thing that was in my mind at that point was making a sale and making money so I can support myself. So when I went, so when I said it was showtime, that was it. I blocked out everything else. It became a habit. And I went in that house, I had no problems. As soon as I left that house, all the problems hit me again. But they didn't hit me when I was in there. And they got everything that I could give. And that's the main reason why I was in one of the top salesmen when I was in that mood. And sometimes I fall out of that mood. But I didn't get lazy in that mood. I just kept going. I kept sticking with it. This is what I need to do. This is what I need to say. And be a professional. and that works. So we have to look at this and say, what is my key choice now? Do I make this choice about understanding near-thinking, near-tech, or do I just back off and become one of the followers out there and just become lazy again? And that's the easy way out. It really, truly is. It's the easy way out to say, you know what? I'm just a follower. I'm just a bobblehead. I'm just this, and I can't fight this. And that's the easiest way out of this. But if you really wanted to be that lazy, you wouldn't have came here to begin with. So there's something still inside of you that says, I want to learn this information. I want to become, king of my world. And that's what you got to dig into. And you got to bring that person out to say, I'm not giving up on this. I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to do this. That's the key choice that you're going to make for yourself. And all the different things that Mark has, that Franco Wallace has in here, is the direction that you have to go and the development that you have to make in yourself to continue this journey. When you do that, you'll never feel any better in your life. You'll never have the confidence that you have now. No matter what you did in the past, everything else is just not touching what you feel now. So all that hard work that you did to get there is really starting to pay off now. That's what you want to achieve. That's where you want to go, is to feel that victory in yourself. To say, you know what, I did it. I got through that hurdle. I came out strong. And it's a great feeling to have that. And I can remember all those points in my past since I came here in the last 10 years, I've hitting those steps of climbing that mountain and conquering that mountain and being on top and saying, I stuck the flag up here and this is, I made it. It's a great feeling, and then you don't want to lose that feeling. That's what keeps you going to the next step and the next step and the next step, is to feel that victory that you felt. And that's where you want to get to. And you can. We all can. It's just a matter of believing in yourself and making that choice for yourself. When we start to make those choices for ourselves and not listen to anybody else, we start feeling stronger. And with that, Steve, I'll throw it back to you.
Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate it. Let's stay on that subject for a minute. How do you keep training yourself to get there? How do you keep disciplining yourself to get there? How do you control yourself to get to those goals? One of the programs we talk about, and I know there's a call on Monday nights, and I'm sure many of you have gone through the program with it, and that's the mini-day schedule. I think it's Monday or Tuesday now. I know we did some switching. But if you're really wanting to get to the top of the ladder, you've got to challenge yourself. You've got to force yourself to have to take responsibility and stick with it. That's the key, sticking with it. That's where people fall. They just can't stay with it. And they find every excuse in the world to get out of it. Now, it's great to be able to have your parents. We all want our parents that be there and nurture us, etc. But you can't always rely on them, especially after you hit a certain age. Sometimes you're going to have to take control. And everybody on this call, you should be taking control. Let me say it to you like it is. And it is very important that you look back and look where you're coming from, and then what is the path where you're going? And is it making sense? See, this is the next step for everybody. What am I going to do? How am I going to open up the room, a dusty room, for the in-laws? This is very important. If you want the world to move forward with you, and you need, obviously, people to help you, you've got to embrace these people. So if you're going to move forward, you're going to take your responsibility, and then you're going to use other people as a guideline for you as you start to research. Guess what, everybody? We're all researchers. We're all coaches. We're all developers. And we are showing the world how to live differently, which will give us the opportunity to have a winning store. And looking at that, saying, I don't know, let's, I just think we have to look at that and understand, where are we going? Am I being forced to go a certain way? Am I being forced to dress a certain way? Am I being forced to make money a certain way? Or is that my course? The mini-day schedule will help you become trained. Because every day you've got to put out what you're doing. And you see, that's really important. You cannot go ahead to high levels unless you have an actual path that you can walk through. And you cannot be successful just by chance getting jobs or gigs, and then hopefully you're going to make $1 million. One of the things you have to understand is if you're going to make a difference, you're going to have to make the difference of you. Making the difference of who you are is really the theme tonight. Because you see, you're a value creator. You are going to create something phenomenal for us to be successful and survive in the society and in the world. It's going to come out through these rooms. And one of you out there, I will expect to hear from you. But does that frighten you? Now let's go to fear. Are you frightened because I'm now putting you on the radar? And by the way, I am. Yep, you've got that right. And I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to wake you up and say, whoa, I am coasting, but I'm not on course. And I need to be in course. And Charlie said it. I got to believe in myself. I got to have the right philosophy. I have to have the right business mode. I have to have the right skill, and which I'll learn, and I have to have exerted effort in my personality and work. Okay, write that down. Exerted effort. It becomes part of who you are, and you will move mountains with that way of knowledge. I'm telling you, I've seen it. I've seen people promoting in their businesses and companies, and I've seen what they've done to get those. And it comes from them, not the company. And these individuals know they are being scrutinized. And they want the positions. They want the positions. They want the salary increase. They want the food that goes with it, housing. Well, in order to get that, you really have to be able to be a really honest value creator. You got to do it. If you're not doing it, my question is why? And I will say, when we did the last time somebody watched, the program that would help you grow and develop. There's History Channels, there's other processes. You've got to look at this and build it. Now, let's go through additional philosophies, because I just talked about them, and Charlie brought you into the course. I brought you into how you have to believe in yourself. I taught you how you're going to have to use exerted effort. You're going to have to network. Philosophies that guide entire nations, eras, and civilizations with result cultures, economics, and degrees of enlightenment of darkness. We have to look at the individual philosophies, which is man's implicit and explicit philosophy, depending on, again, their psychology of life. Then we've got the psychologies of everybody else in the world as well, which is really others. And I say man, I'm talking about God-man versus just man. So it distinguishes. So it gets tougher as you get bigger. It gets tougher as you get older. How many of you really have a problem going into a group of people and just start talking? Can you do it? Have you done it? How's it been? Then you want to move forward into the concept of evolving, which is your evolving. And all of you now, you're in the evolving stages because, many of you are in high school. Maybe you are getting ready for college. Well, you're in it. You're in it now. And you have to realize it's the game. It's a game of life. And you're in the game. But you got to have the mentality to do it. And you got to have the sweat and the equity. And you want to be able to use the tools that will assist you to be the best teacher, and let's stay with teacher right now, in the world. So remember, that was an example, that you as a human being have to know secrets. Dr. Wallace and Mark Hamilton took 30 years to compile all these books over a 30-year period, 33 years. Have you really looked at the book and take this book, the Prime Discovery? I do the Prime Discovery. Have you ever really looked at the book and then studied it? This is a phenomenal book. It is so great. Yes, there are writings from other books. I got that. We all know that. But the way it has been constructed by Mark Hamilton is amazing. It's really, really good. The poker book starts off in the beginning of the program, and then he gets into the definitions of programs. The poker book, again, is about the metaphors about people living in the world and how do you deal with them. And that's all I'm going to say about that right now. But I'm talking about what we're teaching tonight. You have to make mentality shift changes. You have to be ready to make a change in your mindset. And you have to do it. Because if you don't do it, you will die. Sorry, the way it is. And you will not gain the perks or the benefits that are needed for a young, upcoming ad executive, real estate, marketing, any of them. And everybody here, man, let's go with the young men. You need to be involved and understand what is on the internet. What are the political figures? Who are these people? Who are the ones who do numbers? Who are the ones who do programs that you want to be in the life they want? And then they're looking for another one. So you're like in the middle of the road. So you may have to compromise what you can hear and what you can get. So this is fascinating for you to look at, understanding yourself and now the world. I'm giving you a bigger picture tonight and how that works. So philosophies, psychology, sociology, people, family, all of it comes together. And guess what? You're in the circle of it. You know that? You're in the circle of it. You're in the middle of all of these periods. Think of it as being on this big causeway. And there's shops, and there's religions, and you've got sports, and you got real estate going, and you're walking around and looking, your eyes are just bugged out, and you're watching this whole big world around, and you're like, do I want to get involved, or do I want to squirrel myself out of it? Don't kid yourself. You will think about that. Don't give in. And you got to start doing this now. Now, every day you're wasting if you don't get some of this going. Go and get yourself involved in working on programs and going to clubhouses and other activities so that you get a handle on all this information. Because you are a value creator. Every one of you are. But you got to know you're also in touch. You need to get in touch with your zon to help you build that character, that particular conscious person, and make the world different in a better way. It's very important to always keep making it different, making it better. Even if you have fears, and I know who you are. I've seen people before who have the fears, and I realize that they have to step up and face their fears dead on. Just like when we paused earlier. You were uncomfortable, probably. Okay, for me, I wasn't because, I put together the program. But, yeah, it was like, the pause, where is he? What's going on? Where did he go? Did he leave us? Did he walk out? What's going on? Come on, let's get going. What's happening here? What kind of mentor is that? You're putting on all these thoughts and feelings. Go with the flow as one of the tools of pausing to think and create. Okay, now this is an unusual call tonight. I went differently with this call. I went very slowly with this call because this is your foundation. And if you don't have a good foundation, you will collapse. May not be physically, but it will be some way where you will collapse, probably losing money, having to sell your home, anything like that. Instead, you will be making bigger homes, and you'll be getting more money, etc., because you're going to be a better value creator. So I would love to keep going, but Charlie, give yourself 2-3 minutes, talk about this a minute, anything else you'd like to add, and we're going to wrap this up, but we're coming back next week and looking at these key choices, and then we're going to get into business. Next week is the concept of business. So, Charlie, please put some words out that you think. Feel free.
Yeah, sure. I think it's something that we haven't talked about. And that's about our ego. Where's your ego at this point? Do you look at all of this information and say, I can conquer this, I can do this? Or do you say, oh, I don't know if I can or not? Get your ego back alive. The ego is a very important part of all of this. And I really learned about the ego more, I think, anywhere else than in sales. Because when I went in, like after I was around a while in sales and I changed jobs and I sold this and I sold that, whenever I went into a new company, I would say, hey, I'm going to become one of the top producers here. So that first month, I learned everything I could about that industry or about that service. So I can go out there and sell, and be one of the top guys. My ego. And I really attacked this information the same way when I came here. Because that first year, I was alone. I had nobody to talk to. So it was my ego that kept me going. And I kept saying to myself, do I know this information as much as I think I do? And I kept saying to myself, yes, you have. Yes, you have. Well, but I still had a doubt because I just couldn't compare it to anybody until I finally got involved with Neothic and I started to compare myself to everybody else. And I realized, you know what? My ego pulled me through that year of silence because I was learning it, and here I really was learning it. So get your ego back into shape. And that ego will pull you through this because it pulled me through so many different parts of my life just by saying, I'm the best. I can learn this. Nobody's going to defeat me. The only one that's going to stop me is me. I learned that long ago, and it always kept me through those dark times in my life where I wasn't feeding my ego as much. But it finally pulled me out at the end. So think about that and just dig into this and say that you can learn this and you can do this. And Steve, yeah, it's late, so we got to get going.
Right. Good. Thank you, Charlie, for adding with